Okay, morning all. It's our question time for the week, and this week we've got Danny Profit and Mark Foster in. So we're gonna run the roost over these guys, and we're gonna go slightly different. I know we go 15 questions, but we're gonna go 10 as joint questions, and Mark will answer, then Danny will answer, and then we'll go into individual questions which you've put out there for us, which is 5 each, and we'll go the same there. So I'll ask Danny one of them, and then I'll ask Mark one of them. And so they are different questions for that. So we'll see what they've got this morning. So morning, boys. I know we had a chat with Bob Bowman last night, which was really good. And I think we all took something pretty good away from that. So see if we can answer as well as he did last night, I guess. So first question is, what is your highlight or most memorable moment since joining Titans?
I've got a few, actually. I can't necessarily pick one because I have got a few. I think in my first year, certainly when Pierre qualified for the European Youth Olympic team, that was a highlight because that was the first kind of British swimmer I'd had on a junior international team, actually. And I'd had obviously Neve go with the Dutch the year before, or a couple of years before, but the British one was pretty good. Certainly, any swimmer that's won a gold medal at national level is a real highlight. And I think back, and I think we got Anna's gold medal on the 200 free, George. And then Hetty the other year, and I probably missed a couple out as well. And also anybody that, you know, jumps in the pool, works the backside off, and achieves their goal. You know, that's a highlight to me. So anybody that performs on the big stage when things have maybe not quite gone as well as they maybe wanted to early on the season, but it all comes together at national level. You know, they're the events, they're the swimmers that are a highlight to me.
Danny?
Sweet. Yeah, similar things to Mark in that, you know, everyone who works hard is always good. I'd probably say my most memorable moment is last year's nationals with Millie and James going the back-to-back golds. That's a pretty good one for me. But yeah, like in general, anyone who's kind of moved their swimming along and really got something out of the program is always good.
Excellent. And what's your for each of you again is what's your personal ambition within coaching? I know we all have different goals and setups as the swimmers do, but what's your personal ambition to achieving coaching?
For me, I mean, it doesn't matter whether that's in the future, whether that's now, but for the group that I'm working with to be the best. I mean, I've said on several occasions with the group that I'm working with at the moment that I want this to be, you know, the best in the world, where, you know, people come to us, people look at us, and you know, they look at us and think, wow, they're doing a really great job. What are you doing? How do you do this? How do you do that? So for me, it would be to create the best group of that age in the world, and to make sure that all those swimmers that are in that group can go on and keep progressing, and hopefully one day they go on to make an Olympic team. So that means we've done a job really well. We've put things in place for progression through certainly the group in the age group that I've got, through to 16, 17, through sixth form, university, and through to a senior level.
Danny?
For me, certainly this is kind of looking down the line and long term, but it would be kind of one of the key kind of guys behind British swimming and helping the top guys, you know, at the Olympics and going to Olympics and working with those athletes to basically kind of dominate world swimming. It's always going to be difficult for England because of the size of it and the numbers, but, you know, in place, the infrastructure, there's no reason we can't kind of challenge big hitters like America.
Excellent. swimming related. What was your highest achievement swimming, not coaching or level?
Me, I medaled at regionals. That was it. I never qualified for nationals, so my I think it was a silver medal on the 200 medley in the Coventry pool was a particular highlight for me. You know, particularly some of the people that I beat, you know, were certainly training a lot more than what I could. You know, I came from a small program with 5 hours a week in the pool, so you know, to beat them at, was it 17, I think, something like that. To beat them at that on the 200s was probably a highlight to me. Not necessarily the highest level in the world, but let's say that's where I was, and I beat some pretty good swimmers at the time.
I did all right in the pool. You know, I was national finals and did fairly well in the pool, but I think kind of I geared towards open water like you did, Alan. So national medals, doing like some good stuff in the open water. Really, that was my kind of level.
And what was your best event for each of you, or whether it was your favourite or your best event, doesn't matter really.
For me, I said that swam a 200 medley. I was one of those swimmers that the fly and the backstroke was really good as a young kid through 10 through to 15, and I was pretty much known as a backstroker. So you know, I had a decent fly, and then as I got older, the fly came through, and probably the fly as I finished swimming. The fly was probably stronger than the backstroke, but on the medley, I was pretty good. I used to get a reasonable lead on the 200 medley on the front 100, hang on as best I could on the breaststroke, and then get through to the freestyle, which was solid. So you know, I couldn't do it for a 400 medley, but the 200 medley was where I could just hang on enough. So 200 medley, I always loved medley training, the variety of medley training. In my mind, and I probably finished on the 100 fly as well. I always quite liked the 100 fly. So like I said, I probably finished my swimming as more a fly swimmer than a backstroke on the side at the beginning of, well, call it a career.
Mine changed quite a lot, to be fair. So my favourite event's very different from my best. I think when I was young, my favourite and best event were the same thing. But certainly as I kind of progressed in my career and swimming got a bit more serious for me, my favourite event was something like a 50 breaststroke where I was absolutely trash at it. But it was fun for me because it gave me a chance to kind of take the seriousness out of it every now and again. I wouldn't do it any big competitions, but it was I'd always PB in it because the open water, and then I had a pretty good ability to come down into like the 15, the 8, the 4, the 2, and the 3. 100 was maybe a little bit too splash and dash for me, but certainly 200 and up freestyle. Kind of my best and my favourites. Yes, my favourite changed quite a lot.
I think I had a relatively similar question to this one. Is if you could go back in time and coach yourself, what would you say to a young Marc and a young Danny?
Jesus Christ, this is going to be a fun one. Go on,
for me, it would probably be looking at kind of two sides, really. In the program that I was in, it would be to the little things count, like the fly kicks and the things like that. Those things count. But I was in a kind of a small program where, you know, it was almost a little bit of fun. So a lot of the stuff that I did actually you kind of took on yourself. But I think on the flip side of that, another side of that is go and look for opportunities. Don't be afraid to go and look for opportunities to better yourself. So could I probably say maybe if you want to progress and achieve more, then maybe you need to look at moving from this small club to maybe a larger club with more pool time and more opportunities to train with people my age, my ability, and better. So don't be afraid to go and look for better opportunities out there. That's for me in the club environment that I was in with 5 hours a week. But I think actually in the pool would be, stick with it, do the little things more often, push those extra fly kicks. I never really fly kicked a lot till I was like 17, 18. So, those younger years at 14, 15, 16, do the fly kicks, do those little bits extra. That's the stuff I'd do, say, in the pool.
Yeah, I was a naughty little one when I was a swimmer. So I think Alan used to have us out on the daily shouting at us for misbehaviour, and I used to do absolute. I wasn't exactly well behaved with Dan either. So I think, if I was coaching myself, I certainly wouldn't falter my work ethic. I think I used to work very hard, and that's probably got me to where I got to in swimming. But take more kind of pride and a bit more just kind of focus on your skills a bit more. Like, I wouldn't say my skills were bad, but I don't think I focused enough in training. When it comes to, as you were saying, Mark, with the underwaters or something like that, it wasn't until my later career where I really started to kind of take ownership of that. But when I was younger, it was more just beat the kid next to me so I can grab. That probably wasn't the right way to go about it. So if I was coaching a younger self, certainly a kind of an age grouper, it would be what you're doing now will certainly affect what you do at a later stage. And you'll never have that chance to kind of get it back. So you make sure you get it right, kind of thing.
I remember it well, Danny. Hence all the grey hair that I have. It's between you and...
You got no hair, mate.
If you could coach any Olympic swimmer, who would it be, and why would you want to coach those ones?
I read this question. You sent me about 5 minutes before we started. I read this one and thought, would I want to coach any current Olympic swimmer? And I thought, I'm not sure I would. I'd want to coach an Olympic swimmer that had been through the program that's from right from the beginning. I'd want to coach an Olympic swimmer that was ours, that we'd worked with, we'd developed, we'd shaped and molded and gone through the highs and the lows. And, that's the kind of swimmer that I'd personally want to work with, work to an Olympic level. So I'm not sure I'd want to work with any Olympic swimmer, but if I could, then it'd be one that we'd produced and one that we'd got there, so we could, share in the success as they've come through the program.
For me, yeah, similar to Mark, actually, it would be nice to coach someone right from the ground up, a bit like, we had the Bowman talk yesterday with a Phelps, coached him right from a young age through. But if I had to choose, it'd probably be someone like a Romanchek from the Ukraine, someone who's Eastern European, he's worked his butt off in the pool. He's had some hard yards put behind him, and his stroke is beautiful. So, yeah, probably someone like
that. Excellent. What are your favourite sets to coach and why? And you're not allowed to use the Bowman ones from last night either.
What are my favourite sets to coach and why? I think any set where people are going head to head and smashing each other and going at it is anything that swimmers are really pushing the boundaries. I do like a good sometimes 10-400s. I do like that. I'm not sure the swimmers particularly like that sometimes, but I do like 3100s quite often. I love sets which kind of I think people touch on this, call it a rainbow set, but I've never called it a rainbow set in my life. Where we start off maybe at a 400 in and around threshold pace, then we maybe drop in 2.2s at something, then we drop a couple of 100s going a bit quicker, and then we finish with a whole heap of 50s going absolutely mental. And I like to see that change of gear, and I like to see that level of intensity, and I like to see at the end of that set, and I'd probably end any hard working set, those swimmers who've got that ability to really step up on the really hard work and push those boundaries at the end of the session. I love sets like that. I do quite like some race pace sets on Saturdays, where we do them Saturday morning. You get the swimmers going fast head to head on short distances, hitting their times. Sometimes just bog standards, 850s, 650s, 450s, 250s. Just going real fast. But I'd probably say my stock is anything kind of really kind of a good meaty set, where we're focusing on getting quicker and quicker and quicker as we go through the session. And as we go through the sets, and like I said, any swimmer that's or any group of swimmers that can really challenge themselves towards the back end of sessions and back end of sets and really kind of push those boundaries, and it goes somewhere which they didn't think was possible on a training set, they're the ones that I really like.
I think this question's probably actually better answered by my swimmers, because they always know when I have a set that I like, because I walk on poolside grinning, and they don't even bother asking whether a set's hard anymore because they know the answer. Yeah, something big, something hard, something where I walk on poolside and I'm smiling, and my answer isn't, yes, it's easy. It's, yeah, this will push you. Because generally speaking, they understand what that means, and they usually provide, and they do a really good job in the pool. And it not only does, I might buzz in and kind of lifts the atmosphere, but the guys respond, and they're really good. And yeah, they're the kind of sets I like. It's not really a specific set, but it's when they take it upon themselves to push already what I've set out and really challenge themselves. And yeah, I can see them puffing.
I mean, you should walk on poolside smiling every day, Danny. But
yeah, I do, but a grin more than a smile, because they know what's coming.
I think it was interesting actually listening to I know we've mentioned it. His Bowman last night was there's no shortcuts, and I think that's one of the things Mark said there. He does like a 10-400, and one of the things that Bowman said was Caleb Dressel doing 2400s on 4:45 long course, and to me that kind of indicates that one of, if not the best 50 freestyler, 100 fly swimmer, 100 freestyler in the world is still doing that work. And I think that's an indication of where swimming is, and those athletes that are still achieving at the very top aren't necessarily those ones that we look at and say, oh, it's a one-off, in terms of, it may not be a one-off, but a Michael Andrews going the ultra short race pace and not doing huge yardage in comparison with a Dressel who can back up event after event. And it's an interesting one for me to sit and listen to that last night. And I think guys are kind of putting that into a good point there. What's the best coaching advice you've ever received?
Believe in yourself, believe in what you're doing. I think it's probably one of the best things. Believe in yourself, believe in what you're doing. What was it? Believe in myself. I had it in my head a minute ago. Believe in myself and believe in what I was doing. Listen to your athletes. I think it's probably one of the biggest things that I've probably picked up, certainly over the last 2 years. Developing a little bit more in terms of the soft skill areas, talking and listening. That's probably one of the biggest pieces of advice that I've received. And then ultimately, I think it was Nathan that said to me, this is, if you've tried every single way possible to work with the swimmer, sometimes you just got to put your hands up and go, I've done everything. I've worked, I've been nice, I haven't been nice, I've sat down and spoke to your parents and things like that. And if you tried everything, then sometimes you got to put your hand up and go, I've tried everything. My time's invested in someone else who's working hard.
Yeah.
Mine comes up quite a lot, actually, certainly on this pathway that I'm on at the minute. But it's just walk slow. I can't remember who originally said it, but yeah, it makes sense. Like, just kind of take a step back every now and again. just watch. Just you don't need to be constantly up in arms, frantic, running around. Just every now and again, take a step back, have a look. You know, admire what the guys are doing, and yeah, I think that's probably my one. Walk slow.
Dave Haller from City of Cardiff.
There you go.
Yeah.
What's the hardest part of being a coach?
Oh, for me, without shadow of a doubt, I kind of alluded to it in the answer to my previous question. Without shadow of a doubt, is wasted talent, wasted ability. A swimmer that's got all the ability in the world, you know, he's got great feel of the water, great skills, that they just look good in the water, but they don't understand that they need to work hard to maintain it. You know, I kind of alluded to in my previous answer, is that if, as a coach, you look at us and you think, oh yeah, she's loaded with ability, loaded with potential. And doesn't matter what you try and what you do, that swimmer just doesn't want to engage with it, doesn't want to maximize through the hardware that's needed to achieve, you know, great things. And that's probably one of the hardest things as a coach for me, is to see talent wasted and talent and ability just kind of, yeah, well, I'm not actually, you know, that's pretty tough for me to take on that one.
For me, do you know, it's funny actually, because it was brought up yesterday. I know we keep going back to talk, but it was brought up yesterday by Bowman, and it was don't take the performance to heart as a coach, and that's probably something I'm working on or have worked on, and I would like to think I keep developing. But yeah, if you've done good work with them, they've trained their butts off, and then it just doesn't materialize at a competition. You know, you see the kid, they're downhearted. I take it to heart, and I kind of share that pain and share that disappointment with them. And I think as a coach, I've got to learn to actually go, you know what, everything's been done there to lead up to a performance, whether it's negative things or positive things, and it's maybe just kind of taking the emotion out of it and sitting back and going, you know, guys, like it is what it is, and we got to pick ourselves up and go again. But then equally on the opposite side, if the performance is good, it's again reeling it back in and going, you know, that's good, but is it good 6 months down the line? Is it good when we get to the next big competition? So yeah, that's probably my one, is dialing it back in and taking the emotion out of it in that regard.
Difficult. What's and the last one is as a pair, and then we'll go into the individual ones. Is what made you want to join Titan?
And for me, it was a new challenge. It was a different challenge. It was a challenge to work with older kids. At the Royal, I was probably anything similar to kind of Danny's age group, with a couple of older ones thrown in there. But it was certainly the challenge to work with other kids, and the challenge to try and develop a program which would become the best in the country. That's why I wanted to join Titans. That's why I wanted to move away from Wolverhampton, where I've been for 7 years. I've spent a long time there, but I needed a new challenge and wanted a new challenge. And working with Alan, and as it turned out, Danny as well. That's not that wasn't you, Danny. Don't forget. It's certainly a new challenge, and that challenge to develop Ellesmere College Titans to one of the best and one of the leading programs, certainly within the country. And like I said in a previous answer, is to have a club and a program and a school which is one recognised kind of worldwide, really.
Yeah, for me, I remember it well. I remember you phoning me up, getting on your hands and knees and begging me to join, Alan. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, I mean, I've known you for ages now, ever since you used to coach me. So we're going back 11 years now or something. So And then I came up here to kind of help out in some of the camps as one of the chaperones, and just kind of fell in love with it. So when the opportunity came for me to work here,
Okay. I think it's just gone a little bit dead there. I don't know why. Danny's on his mobile. I know he's on that at the moment. So his signal may be dropping out every now and then. So I will go into the individual questions though. And Danny, your first one is, as this is your first job in swimming, was it difficult to make the transition from a swimmer to a coach? And what's the biggest thing that you've learned?
It's not actually my first job. My first job was back at Newmarket as assistant coach there. But this is, it's a completely different ball game because I've taken on a lot more responsibilities coaching here. So yeah, kind of my first job in that. But the transition from swimming to coaching wasn't hard. I loved swimming, but when it came time for me to retire, I think I made the smart decision and was very grown up about it, and kind of moved on. And then swim coaching wasn't actually my first choice, but I ended up landing on it, and I'll touch on that in one of the actual later questions that's been sent to us. But yeah, so then I came here, and probably the biggest challenge was not the coaching side of it, but the bits that go around it that aren't necessarily seen by everyone on the day-to-day. That's picking that up, learning that, and kind of incorporating that into the everyday is probably the bit I've had to work on the most.
Excellent. And Mark's first one is favourite swimming competition, gala, and venue.
Nationals is always, for me, Nationals, British Champs is always kind of up there as a coach and the swimmers that I've worked with. Just the excitement leading into Nationals, or when you get close, you get into April, certainly getting into Nationals and certainly getting up towards trials. That's kind of my favourite kind of gala at the moment. Venue, we'll all got a couple. We always kind of love Sheffield. I've had so many memorable moments at Sheffield through the years. It is certainly one there. Glasgow I quite like as well. Eindhoven I quite like. I went to the Eindhoven Cup a few years ago. I quite like Eindhoven pool. That's a really nice pool as well.
Excellent. Danny, you've got a swimmer that's obviously quoting you here. So when you tell me when you tell me that in training that your nan swims faster than me, can you tell us a little bit about your nan and her best event, favourite set?
Well, the funny thing is she's not even that good, so that's a worry. No, I'm just kidding. She's actually amazing. She's a world record holder in numerous events. Yeah, that's a good one. I like that. I'd probably speed up if I heard that one, said to myself.
Like it. It must be for Mark. It's obviously you have swimmers in a difficult age bracket when it's hormones are flying. It's during puberty, extra work at school, and the load involved in that, and kind of that's the age range where they start to have a few doubts about whether it's swimming as well. So, what do you find hardest about that, really, Mark, as head of AP?
Yeah, I mean that is it hard being head of AP? Yes, is the answer. It is hard. I think swimmers certainly are having doubts about the swimming. They all seem to reach an age, or a lot of them seem to reach a point where they go from 12, 13 years old, where they used to pick best time in not every race, but they can do for every race. That's probably certainly one of the hardest things to explain, is that, or for them to get used to, is when they get, particularly the girls through 15 and 16, the boys a little bit later, is that they go through a point where they'll plateau for a little bit, where growth is stopped, and a lot of the progression has happened through growth. and then it's down to the actual training. So certainly explaining the process, and I've explained, we've gone through that with a couple of swimmers this week and last week when we have our one-to-one chats throughout the week, is that what we've learned is this season is some of them have gone through a full, or well, we haven't gone through a full, but we started to go through a full kind of training yearly cycle where we have blocks of hardware where we don't best time and where we're looking to best time maybe 2 or 3 times a year. And I think those understanding of that concept is difficult, is very difficult. And then like you throw in balancing exams and things like that. It's a very, and probably one of the things that I've learned here is that you've got to spend a little bit more time talking to them, discussing things with them, pointing things out, looking to where they were at this point last year. So rather than going, well, my best time was set in nationals in August, or late July, August, and I went 110 for 100 breaststroke, and I'm only going 114 in the middle of February in my first long course meet of the year. It's just like, well, let's compare like to like where you were this time last year. And it's just getting those kids to maybe see the more holistic picture, where they're at. And I said to one of them, that thin strip across the scoreboard, which says name, Ellesmere College Titans, lane, 1 minute, such and such, doesn't give you the biggest picture. There are other things around it which, you know, will affect your performance. And I think probably that's one of the biggest things, is dealing with everything and helping them understand that there are things which will help you affect performance, but certainly putting things in place to combat and understand those things. So, right, okay, if we're not best timing, then maybe we need to go back and either work hard, or maybe we just need to back off a little bit because we're growing. So yeah, in a nutshell, yes, it's hard and there's a lot of things to balance.
Danny, you teach learn to swim, and you work all the way through to 18-year-olds. Do you find it challenging?
I certainly did when I first started. Now, not so much. I quite like the differences, and there are challenges, but there's the challenges that maybe the little ones face that the old ones don't, and the old ones face that the little ones don't. And it's actually quite nice getting a chance to work with the age range, because it gives me a chance to kind of develop my kind of coaching and how I present and how I coach to this person, but then how I coach to this person. So it's actually quite nice now. I kind of relish it.
Yeah, good. Transferring skills across age groups, really good. Mark, who is your favourite professional swimmer and why?
Damn it, no. Favourite professional swimmer?
Definitely Sun Yang.
No, it wouldn't be Sun Yang as a first choice. I'd have to say probably it was always a Phelps as I was going up, started through coaching, because you know he worked hard, he had great ability, great kind of support network behind him. Katinka, you know, I watched Katinka race a million events at some of the meets I've been to, and to see her get up, stand up, race, get up, stand up, race, get up, stand up, race was quite impressive. So, you know, certainly anybody that can do that's got a tick in the box from my point of view.
Excellent. After you stopped swimming competitively, Danny, was your plan to always go into coaching?
Yeah, no, so this is actually what I touched on earlier. No, I went to Loughborough for aeronautical engineering. Turns out quite difficult, not gonna lie. I wasn't necessarily good enough for it. They kind of got in because of my swimming with the grades there or thereabouts. It was very hard, and it was hard to mix in with the swimming. So I ended up, you know, giving that up, and I moved back. And to fill in my spare time, I started volunteer coaching, just because, you know, the club had put a lot into me. I wanted to put a bit back into the club, and that's kind of where I fell in love with coaching. And then it just went from there, really. Simple as that.
Okay. Mark, what motivates you as a coach?
To take a swimmer, develop a swimmer, work with a swimmer to achieve a goal. I've touched on it before as well. You know, I want to work in and be recognised in the program we are has been the best. Has been world class. There's been great coaches. So I think I touched on it before about that kind of thing. But what motivates me as a coach is taking the swimmer, working with them, developing them, overcoming hurdles, challenging them, going through the highs and the lows to achieve a goal. That's what motivates me, as well as everything else that I've kind of alluded to in previous answers. Is getting and been recognised. And walking on deck and people going, yeah, Titans are here. They're good. Watch those swimmers. Watch those swimmers. They're good.
Okay, I'm just going to pause the video because we're on a Zoom time lapse here, and it's about to click over to the 40 minutes. So I'm going to zoom out and come back for the final two questions, which will be edited, and you'll be back in shortly.
Yeah.
Okay, and we're back just for this final question each. You'll have seen my fantastic editing just done. And so, Danny, what was your biggest setback, disappointment that you faced as a swimmer, and how did you cope with that?
Yeah, that's a pretty tricky question. I think every swimmer has setbacks in their career. Probably my biggest setback was at university and trying to juggle going to uni and training. So I used to swim quite a lot a week, and then when I started uni, or certainly second year uni, I couldn't get to as many sessions in the week. Like I had to drop maybe 30% of my training, my pool hours. For me, that was really hard because I was a long distance swimmer. Kind of my career was revolved around heavy work and kind of just standing on the block, knowing that you've trained harder than anyone else. So having to drop my pool time was really hard. I tried to pick it up with a lot of gym work. Did the gym on my own. No one kind of taught me how or anything. And I went from squatting low weight to high weight pretty quickly, ruined my back. Was told I couldn't swim for a while, ignored it, went straight back into swimming. And then it happened again. And then that was the point in my career where I thought, is it time to kind of hang up the boots? And had a chat with the coach, my parents. Mum wasn't a fan. But yeah, I think that was kind of the point where I decided to retire, and that's probably my biggest kind of challenge / setback. And it's something I'll always look back on and go, I was probably foolish to give it up when I gave it up, but there's no point dwelling on it because I think actually I'm in a place now where I wouldn't give it up for the world. So I can't look back at too harshly when I've got, where I am now, because it might have had a different ending. So yeah, that's probably mine.
And Mark, your final question. Do you see yourself wanting to be a head coach of a program?
I've asked this question a lot. Not recently, but certainly in the last couple of years a lot. Yes, I do want to be a head coach. But I think for me, we started a challenge 4 years ago. At the end of the season, started a challenge 4 years ago to develop and drive Titans to be, the best in the country. I don't think we've quite achieved that yet, and I wouldn't want to leave knowing that we hadn't kind of achieved what we set out to achieve. I've said before, and maybe not publicly, but certainly privately, that being a head coach is something I want to be, but it's got to be the right one. The right one for me, and certainly now the right one for family. Obviously, Rude being born kind of changed the landscape and changed the picture a little bit. So if a head coach's job came up which interested me, certainly sit down and chat with you, Alan. But it'd have to be the right one at the right place. I can't see myself moving to the other end of the country right at this moment in time. I don't think Martha would be too kind of take that too nicely. I don't think it wouldn't be right us as a family at the moment. So the answer, yes, but I think there are a couple of things. One, maybe we needed to achieve, or we set out to achieve at the beginning as a group of coaches at Titans, and two, it'd have to be the right one for me and kind of family, really.
Excellent. Boys, thank you very much. I'll get this out this afternoon, so you can sit back, have a coffee, and watch it back on your watch it back for yourselves.
Can't wait.